Actually, I have a little bit, something like 19 slides, so I will go very fast. Introduction. I was actually told that Muslims are actually not accepting the post-mortem examination, and also I have been working to establish post-mortem examination in the Maldives in the last maybe 7 years. Until now, we have not been able to establish the post-mortem examination in this country. So that's why I have interested to study this topic. So from my introduction, actually I learned that opinions and perspectives towards humanitarian forensic practices such as post-mortem examination and also sometimes we call autopsy, very depending on the demography and cultures and education and also religious belief. And these views hinder sometimes for the criminal investigation and also sometimes for humanitarian actions. Post-mortem and autopsy is term used to describe full examination of human body to determine some facts, basically to determine the cause of death. It is claimed, as I have mentioned, that these practices were accepted by Western societies more than Muslims. And so my objectives are to study and to examine whether the post-mortem examination in Malaysia and also Malaysia and also Indonesia were in compliance with Islamic law and identify the ways or new technologies that would help to increase the acceptance rate of post-mortem examination in Muslim countries like Indonesia and Malaysia, and also maybe in the future in the Maldives. This study also was focused to analyze and understand the current practices that is practiced in these countries. Is there any barrier or challenges faced by the forensic practitioners when they perform these practices? There are a few questions that actually I have addressed in this paper. One is the current practices of post-mortem examination in Malaysia and in Indonesia is compatible with Islamic Sharia law or not? What are the factors that hinder the practices of post-mortem examination in the Malaysia and Indonesia? What are the alternative technologies and ways that can be used to make a more acceptable by Muslim communities? Methodology was actually, I have selected a qualitative study for this topic, and data was gathered using online search engines, database, religious doctrines, literature, including Quran, Hadith, fatwas, and a review of their interpretation regarding the post-mortem examination was also evaluated. The results then interpreted and harmonized for the current practices for further directions. Literature actually, according to humanitarian ICRC, International Committee of Red Cross, there are some activities that they face some challenges when they practice these practices in Muslim context. But not only in Islam, but also in many other faiths, the cultures and post-mortem examination were considered to be disfiguring, invasive, and disrespectful of the corpse, which many faith system believe is not permissible to do. This is I found from literature. This is not actually the Muslim issue. Other faiths also they regard some practices are not permissible. Researchers found that when one consider the importance of benefits of post-mortem examination, it is also important to think with the respect to the current beliefs in the society. Post-mortem examination in the Islam, basically it is there is no conflict, and also it is allowed. And although there is a hadith saying breaking the bone of the death is a breaking of live, according to some scholars, actually they said also Imam Shafi said science is two sciences: the science of religious and science of eternity. The science of eternity only it teaches autonomy and physiology. The senior jurists did not discuss in detail in the subject of autopsies, except the incision of the dead pregnant woman abdomen to remove her fetus in the child's life in her abdomen was weighted. According to Dawoodi, postmortem was practiced among Islamic history, and therefore Muslim scholars such as Al-Razi and Ibn Sina used to perform autopsies for educational purpose. However, Ibn Nafis, who first described the preliminary circulation of the blood, was of the opinion that it was not permissible in accordance with the Islamic law. Therefore, he did not perform the autopsies. In order to reach guiding rules of autopsy, scholars based on principles and Islamic legal maxims. I will come to this point later. Actually, there are legal maxims such as principles such as Maslah al-Mursala, and also Ad-Darurat Tubihul Mahzurat, and also Ikhtiyar Akhaf al-Darrain. Based on these legal maxims and principles, many Muslim countries and jurists and fatwas were actually considered to be this practice allowed and is according to Islam. The example of dissecting a dead mother's womb to rescue the fetus given by the classical Muslim judices is brought here by the contemporary muftis to allow autopsy. According to resolution of the Islamic Fiqh Council of the Makkah, Islam allows and permits to perform autopsies for the purpose of medical, legal, clinical, and educational. For these three purposes, it is allowed. Then I will come to the post-mortem examination in Indonesia and Malaysia, and based on my limited literatures available, it is the practices were according to Islam, and is very much guided and governed by the criminal procedure code in basically in both countries. Then I will come to the factors hindering the process of post-mortem examination in the Indonesia and Malaysia. Basically, there are enough literatures in context of Indonesia, but in Malaysia, I didn't see many literatures. Forensic practitioners face a lot of ethical, medical, legal conflicts with applied principles of medical legal ethics in daily forensic medical practices in Indonesia. Indonesian criminal justice system. The study conducted one of university in Indonesia found that 80% of the respondents had heard the word of autopsy, but only 75% claimed to understand the meaning of the word. 52% of respondents would permit autopsy to be performed for themselves or family members. Basically, there are some factors I have identified in terms of autopsy in Indonesia, and I did not see many or only few literature I was found in the context of Malaysia. And although I met a very senior figure in the Malaysia, and according to him, there are some very few cases they face from the Malaysian context. The alternative technologies, there are new projects going on in the countries like UK, US, and Japan, Australia, and basically they apply the CT scan and other scan technologies to find out the facts and come to conclusion for the cause of death. There are a lot of projects going on in basically in modern and developed countries, and I didn't see any such of project going on in the Muslim countries. Findings: the laws on the conducting post-mortem examination in Malaysia and Indonesia are well defined and regulated. Both countries follow specific guidelines on autopsy in Islamic legal maxims. Current literature confirms that the current practice of post-mortem examination in Indonesia and Malaysia has no dispute with the Islamic law. However, Malaysian CPRC allows the autopsy without consent of relatives. But in Indonesia, the consent of relatives' disease is required for the purposes of the autopsy. The major hindrances to practice post-mortem examination in Indonesia are basically due to religious beliefs, human values, and respect of the corpse that Indonesian Muslim communities upholds. There is little or no evidence in the literature as to why Malaysian citizens oppose the post-mortem examination, because there are very few cases whereby family reject to conduct such procedures. However, retaining of the organs of the dead body without the consent of the next of kin, as it is done in Malaysia, is practice that is needed to be further analyzed. And literature on the alternative technology solution to traditional method of the post-mortem examination indicate that the recent advantages of the new technology is such as CT scan and also MRI, and their application to access soft and hard injuries indicated the advancement in the field of forensic pathology. However, the use of new technology is limited in the Muslim world, mainly due to the ignorance and the mentality towards the post-mortem examination. Limitations. Major limitation of this study is the limited data available in the literature regarding the post-mortem in Muslim countries. In general, however, a few studies were found in Indonesia, as I have mentioned. Although analysis of the topic can be done only with the access to the relevant data. Therefore, further research needed to be done to examine the factors that hinder the post-mortem examination in Malaysia, and also on the topic, the compatibility of post-mortem examination with Islamic Sharia. This would help to way forward for the Islamic community to accept post-mortem examination practices without such hindrance. Conclusion. Findings highlighted the need for the better health professional education and the fact some concerns may be mitigated if less invasive method such as the virtual autopsy of the postmortem were routinely available. More participation in data publication in forensic practice is needed, as their contribution is little. It would have been better if CPRC of Indonesia and had incorporated the provision allowing the autopsies without consent for medical legal post-mortem examinations. As I have mentioned, basically the law enforcement officers, they face some problems when they deal with the families. Virtual autopsies will reduce the number of invasive autopsies. Eventually, the acceptance rate will be increased. Thank you very much.